right, I'll read the meeting notice and then Rini can call it to order.
Okay.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 and March 23rd order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Southampton Select Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to, view this meeting while in progress, we do so by going to zoom.us/join. Hit join the meeting in the top right hand of your screen. Type in the meeting ID of 177-944-560. Password is 759319. Hit join. Please be sure to mute your device when joining in. Note, to join in video meeting with cell phone, you will need to download the Zoom app from the App Store or by watching public access TV Charter Spectrum Channel 191. In-person attendance and public comment at select board meetings will be suspended until further notice. If you email a written public comment before the scheduled select board meeting, it will be read at the select board meeting. If you email a written public comment after viewing something at a live televised select board meeting, it will be read at the next select board meeting. Please send your public comments via email to selectmen@townofsouthampton.org. Please note that all public comments must be within the requirements of the policy on public comments listed in the open time for the public on the select board agenda.
Okay, thank you very much, Ed. Then I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Today is the 14th of April, 2020, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to
the republic which it stands,
and
one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and
and justice for all.
Good job, everybody. It's a little harder to do it in unison. So just remember that because of the Zoom meeting, we do have to do a roll call vote for all votes that are taken. I'm just going to start, first of all, I just want to offer my sincere condolences to the family of the resident from Southampton who died recently from the COVID virus. I also want to offer our support to all the people from Southampton that are either dealing with personally the COVID virus or dealing with family members. So please know that you're in our thoughts. And we'll be talking a little bit later about COVID and updates as it's part of every meeting that we have. I also just wanted to say thank you to the sort of the people on the front lines in Southampton, particularly Jerry Swanson, Charlie Kanicki, Ed Gibson, our fire chief, John Workman, and also our police chief, Ian Illingsworth, for all of their efforts in securing PPE and keeping all of us safe with notices and updates and such. So thank you all very much for all you're doing. Does anybody else have any other announcements or anything before we start the official agenda?
No, just want to add my thanks to what you said, Rini. I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah. Yep. Now, I don't know, Ed, did you send out an email? When we talk about the COVID, will you also give an update from our Monday meeting?
Yes, I will.
Okay, good. Okay, in that case, we'll just move along then to the agenda. The first is the, unfortunately, resignation of Tom Quinlan, our building commissioner, effective May 4th, 2020. So that's unfortunate. But I understand, you know, he's going to a town where he lives. And so I just want to say thanks, John, for all your efforts to develop the position for the shared building commissioner, which hopefully we'll still be using to recruit a building commissioner, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I can go over that under the old business title if you want.
Okay, okay, so then we probably should have a motion to accept the resignation of Tom Quinlan.
I'll make the motion. We accept Tom's resignation as of May 4th.
And I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Any other comments about that? All right, then all those in favor?
Roland, aye.
Fowles eye.
Tishman, I.
Martin, aye.
And Groden, aye. All right, thank you. So Ed, is typically we would send a letter to Tom thanking him for his years of service to Southampton. Is that something that you or Judy will be able to do?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah,
go
Rini, sorry, before you got on, Tom called me earlier today. He was going to try to get on this meeting, so he may be here in a little while.
Okay, all right, thanks.
on Zoom.
If someone sees him joining on, just let us know, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we have no hearings, and then next would be the select board reports. Does anybody have any reports?
I just have a couple small things. The Conservation Commission actually met last night, and we had a full board or full commission. All members were present, and we did it by Zoom, and it worked out pretty well. It was pretty much routine business, but working on some NOIs and just looking at various things. There's a couple of one in particular, a enforcement order that needs to be put in place for one area that is not sort of cooperated with the wetlands bylaw, wetlands law. So that's one thing that they're working on. They're going to be talking to, I think it's Conservation Works has offered to do a little bit of a trail loop for us in Clearwater woodland area. They're going to add kind of a circular link there so that the trail, you don't have to go all the way down to the end and then turn around and come back, but you can do a little mini circle down there. So they're looking at probably doing that for us, which would be kind of nice for a really reasonable fee. So they probably can go ahead and start doing that very soon.
That's wonderful.
So not too much going on there. And then we just met just now. We had the Board of Assessors meeting, and that too was pretty short and sweet and routine. I was basically talking about the personal exemptions and some possible deadline changes for that. And I think we'll talk about that later on as we get into probably the deadlines on other things that we're talking about for the town. But this would be for the personal exemptions for people that are seniors, veterans, persons with disabilities. They were normally supposed to file their request for extension for those exemptions by April 1st, and that's already come and gone. So these assessors has a recommendation to extend that, which I think they should have sent to Ed, hopefully.
Correct.
Okay. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other updates?
Yeah, I just want, just as a parent, I just want to say that the school is doing an unbelievable job with distance learning, and the speed in which they were able to get those systems up and running to be able to provide meaningful content to our elementary school students was rather incredible and touching to watch. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know, how they're pulling it off, but they're clearly working hard. It seems to be working fairly well. It's a pretty cohesive unit, and they seem to be very dedicated. I'm very impressed by it.
Hey, Matt, can you say a little bit more about that? So are they actually holding classroom as a distance learning? Are they doing like modules that the students complete? Like, how does that work? And do you think it includes all students from Norris?
Yeah, so we haven't had a school committee meeting since the systems were launched. We have one coming up here via Zoom. Let me just look at the date here. We have one coming up actually this Thursday, 5:30, April 16th. So I'll have a better update after that session. But all I can speak to is personally here, I have a first grader. So obviously we're not doing daily Zoom classes for the first grader, but he has a Zoom session for an hour and a half. It usually lasts on Monday mornings, and then he does one on Friday mornings. And basically they just kind of go over what they're going to be doing during the week. And then on Friday, they have a chance to summarize what they did do during the week, presumably with their parents. And it's, it's very, you know, it's obviously driven by the parents, and it's very sensitive to the fact that like some parents, like myself and my wife, are in healthcare and we're out there every single day, and so it's one of these things where it's kind of do what you can, do the best you can, even if it's not even if you can't do anything, like that's, you know, good enough. So they're very sensitive to the fact that some parents are at home and able to do this, some parents aren't, some parents are split. What they're doing in the other grades that are more advanced than my son, like, you know, grades 2 through 6, I'm sure varies significantly, and I don't know if, say, 6th grade involves daily Zoom classes or how that's working, but I can get a better update on Thursday for you. We have a Zoom class on Mondays and Fridays, and then they give us, you know, the 1st grade gives us a schedule for each day, Monday through Friday, in the various curriculum, you know, reading, writing, math, and science. They give us like kind of ideas and what to do on each day of the week, and you know, it's kind of it's parent directed.
It sounds great. It really does.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's fantastic. It's well organized. The kids do love seeing each other. At least my son does, and it seems like just I watch it from afar. I'm not like hovering at the time, but they seem very well engaged for an hour and a half and excited to see each other twice a week.
Are there any issues with laptops or iPads with some kids?
Yeah, so I had asked that, and the school seemed very sensitive about that. It was discussed at the school committee meeting a couple of weeks ago. They seemed to feel like they had enough, you know, so they were very regimented and detailed on how they did this. So they sent out multiple messages by phone, email. I even think there was some mail involved where they basically were like, they asked specific questions. Do you have access to the internet? Yes or no. Do you have access to a device that's capable of accessing the internet? Yes or no. And I think in instances where that wasn't possible, my understanding is that the school was at the ready to be able to provide the resource, whether it was a laptop on loan, iPad on loan, some way of accessing the internet. Like basically they've done, they're doing everything they can to make sure that the content is the exact same content that everybody can receive is able to be received by everybody. And so if that means that, you know, they can't access Zoom and they can't access the internet, then it's hand delivered. You know, my son received it from the school van last week, a bunch of material in a zip, you know, disinfected Ziploc bag that came from the school in hard copy. So I think they're trying to cover every single base. At least they're making every effort to do so. You know, recognizing that not everybody has the internet and not everybody has a device to be able to make that happen.
Good.
That's
I
great.
think the PTO is at the ready to be able to help out as well. And I know that there's numerous parents that are willing to figure things out if the school needs it, and they have offered those resources.
That's great, Matt. One thing I would, if you do have a school committee meeting, because I don't know how long, you know, some people, I know it only goes up to like the 4th of May, technically right now in terms of the state, but, you know, there's a number of people who feel like this could go on to the end of the school year. If you have, or when you have a next school committee meeting, I'd be particularly interested in how they're able to meet the needs of kids that are in either special education or have 504 plans. So if you
Yeah, so
would-
I know, I don't know the specifics of how they are, but I know that was you know, DESE had that concern. Everybody has that concern, that, you know, Ms. Pluta had that concern. So I don't want to guess, but I'm sure that they have that solved for, because there's no way they could have moved forward if they didn't. Yeah. So I know that they've somehow have that solved for. I'll specifically ask about it, but that was, you know, at least in the 2 or 3 weeks that it took to get this stuff implemented, that was a work, you know, that they needed to work through that with the Department of Education and the school as well.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks. Does anybody else have any select board reports?
No, I don't, but I just want to announce that the Hampshire Regional School Committee will be meeting tomorrow via Zoom at 4:30, from 4:30 to 5, to discuss the budget. And then they're going into a session with Union 66 with Chesterfield Goshen at 5 o'clock. So it'll be a very short meeting related to the budget.
Okay. And I know that Open Space is looking to meet by Zoom on Thursday night, and that the Council of Aging is hoping to meet by Zoom on May 1st, or the first Wednesday in May. And there's a lot of activity, obviously, with the Board of Health. So we'll talk about that later on with particularly the COVID topic. So if nobody else has any other updates, Ed, do you have a town administrator report?
Not much other than COVID-19, but I would like to say that the employees here at the town hall and throughout the town are still working. The ones here in town hall, we are close to the public still, but we're working alternate schedules, working from home, coming into the office to get the essential work done, to answer emails and answer any voicemails that are left. That is working out very well for us. It is a bit of a challenge sometimes, but you know, we all understand that the best thing that we can do is do social distancing and, you know, stay at home when possible. So that is working out. Police and fire are still working 24/7. Highway department is still performing their duties as regular. The Council on Aging, Joan is usually in to answer any emails or telephone calls and questions, and the library is still currently closed.
Okay, any questions for Ed?
Ed, do all the staff members have access to their email, their work email from home? Is that technical issue been worked out?
Well, yeah, anyone that had access from home, and it really wasn't from home if they were using the web portable. It was those that were accessing it through their telephones and having it forwarded to telephones. That's all been straightened out as of this afternoon.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ed. There are no presentations, so we'll go on to old business. And the first item is the Shared Building Commissioner update.
Okay, well, as we know, Tom decided to take the position in Hadley because it just offered him some benefits that we couldn't give him here in town, like a town vehicle and a large rollover of sick time and all that. So, you know, we lost him, but you know, it's good for him. I think he's gonna enjoy it there. I talked to the head of the Westhampton Select Board late last week, and they're still very interested in doing a shared building commissioner. So we have that agreement that once we decide what to do, we can finalize it with Westhampton. But I think what we have now is we got to decide how we want to post this position. If we're all in favor of doing it on a joint basis, we need to get a position approved and posted for a building commissioner for both the towns. Now that we're looking for a new person, we have some flexibility in salary, benefits, and all that. So we just need to get an updated position. I think that we all agree with it is fair and it's going to attract some good candidates. And I would think, Ed, since the building commissioner reports to you, that you could take a look at the current job description. We could update it, and I'll get maybe a look at it before we put it through the PQB for a regrading. Or do we have to put it through the PQB? That's another question, because it really, if it's part Westhampton and part Southampton, I'm not sure how that would work with PQB.
And I would say it would still have to go back through them. I did include the current job description in the package that we have that was approved. So we do have that for a baseline.
Yeah, I'd like to get that new job description done, then re-look at the budget line items that include, you know, the benefits, the mileage, the telephones, the books and all that stuff, to kind of realign it to a new position going forward versus just taking what we had and combining it with Westhampton. I think there's some economies of scale there we can reach and still create a nice position for somebody who wants to work full time.
You mean in the agreement itself?
In the agreement, plus also, for instance, we provide a cell phone and a jetpack or whatever brand it is. And Westhampton was paying some of those benefits. We're paying some. We need to look at the actual costs of what it would be to provide those two pieces of equipment and put that number in the budget rather than, combining two budgets that may or may not be accurate. Especially going forward to fiscal 21, I think that's important to do. And I think we'll have an accurate budget. And personal thought is we could do this position at a cost that's a little more cost effective for both towns.
Could I add, for the sake of, interviewing and providing information to the applicants, could we gather some kind of baseline information over the last 3 years of like the number of new constructions per year on average, the number of permits issued over the last 3 years? So we get a sense of, how many hours per week it is or should be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that I know Westhampton, we already have that already for the general construction. Ed, I would assume that we have that for the last 3 years for Southampton.
We can put that together, yes.
Okay.
Didn't Tom Quinlan put out a document not that long ago that gave all that information?
Yeah,
I
he
believe
did.
so.
He did have some, yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with John in terms of, looking at the budget and seeing where we could have some economies of scale. But I think the first thing is to take a look at that job description, which I think what was in the package tonight seemed to be pretty comprehensive. I don't know if is that what you're thinking still needs to be more revised, John?
Well, I just want to make sure that it's I want to make sure we didn't put a job description together for an incumbent and do stuff that we maybe don't want to do or add stuff that we want to put in there.
Right.
I just want to make sure it's accurate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're writing the position, not the person, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
So Ed, if you want to send me a copy of that, well, actually, I got a copy of that, so I'll be glad to work with and do some little tweaking on it. I don't think it's going to be much, but now's the time to look at it before we start getting applicants.
Yeah, and I'll look at it and make any suggested edits to it too.
Okay, thanks.
So would this job description also have to be posted in Westhampton, or since we're the lead on this, would we just be the ones that would have to decide on it and post it?
Well, I think common courtesy, I guess we're the lead. We should post it, advertise it, but also send one over to them so they can post it because they may have somebody in that town that be interested. I think the farther out we get this, the better it is, because at least in my opinion, this is going to be a nice position for somebody that has some experience but wants to grow over the next 5-6 years.
Mhm.
And you'll do joint interviews with someone, representative of Westhampton?
Well, we told them that we would, as part of the process, we would keep them involved, whether they want to be in the actual interview or just maybe see the finalists with us or have a word. But yeah, I think we need to keep them definitely involved with the process to make it work.
Yep.
And do we have to approve the job description and go to PQB and before we can even post the position?
The requirement to post it is that you include the posting. I don't remember that you had to include the job description.
But it's going to be tough to have a posting without a job description and a salary range to it. Yeah, we're either going to get people that think it's worth 150 or people that think it's going to be 30,000. Yeah, neither of those are going to be qualified at either ends of the spectrum.
No.
How long do you think?
But we are better off getting this out there as soon as possible.
Yeah, I agree. Before the building season starts, whatever.
Yeah. Do you think we could run that through PQB quickly, Ed? Will they meet with a special Zoom meeting, or we can ask them?
Well, they still meet. I mean, I would personally like to get the posting done so that we can get that out there and get that through them, along with the PRF to post it and move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that the posting, I think people that are going to know it's a building commissioner position are going to have an idea of what that involves. And if it just says Southampton, Westhampton, I don't think it has to be detailed. I think that'll give us a little bit of time to actually very seldomly do you have a post, this is what the pay is going to be. So really it's to let people know that the positions available involve Southampton, West Hampton, and get, inquiries going.
Well, I guess the devil's advocate side, I don't disagree on posting it quickly, is that we're going to get a lot of calls saying, what's it all about? What do you need? What experience? How much? Who's going to answer all those calls? And are we going to have answers to those calls? That's my concern. But either way, we need to get it out there quick.
Mhm.
So.
And what do we do in the meantime to cover for Tom's position when he's gone?
Yeah. Well, that's a question. Tom's going to be here to May 4th. So, I mean, what are we at now? We're at the 14th or something of April. So we've got 3 weeks. I can talk to Tom, or Ed can talk to Tom. He'll see him more so, and ask him if there is somebody he could recommend for coverage on the interim. Because Tom, as I understand it, can't work for another town once he takes the Hadley position. So he couldn't.
We do have an alternate. Building
Is it, who is that, Ed? Is that Ron?
We actually have two. One is Ron Lauren.
Yeah. And Ron is the building inspector in Westfield. Is that right?
I believe so.
So he may be interested in doing that if he can. Fortunately, we can't do much building right now,
Yeah, right. So back to the question about PQB, you said they're still meeting, but have they had a Zoom meeting since this all started?
Yes. In fact, they've got one this Thursday too.
Oh. Well,
Okay. All right, we'll start then with both John and Ed relooking at the job description and seeing what needs to tweak. I think it was very well written. I think, we just want to make sure we weren't in any way earmarking it or thinking about a particular person in mind. And then should we just take it from there? Should we authorize by vote, and okay, or do people want to, review the final edition? What do you want to do?
I'm willing to authorize. I don't want to hold anything up.
Okay.
And from what we're looking at, it's pretty, it's pretty comprehensive what we have. If they want to tweak it, that's fine. But I think it's a substantial job description. That's it.
Okay, and we don't have to be looking specifically, the job description doesn't go into the details about whether we provide them with like an air card or phone or, that's all part of the contract. So the job description itself is separate, right?
Well, I think, tell me if I'm going out the wrong way here, Ed, but we want to let the people know that want to apply that we will provide the necessary equipment. And I'm not sure if that's in the job description or not, but at some point, obviously, we want to let them know.
Yeah, you wouldn't put that in the job description.
Okay.
No, I didn't think so either. So, I'm comfortable. Matt is our liaison to PQB. I'm comfortable with sort of authorizing John and Ed to work on the job description and move it along to PQB. I think the final draft I saw was really good. I can imagine that there's going to be a lot. And if we're not going to be adding contractual language to it, then I'm comfortable if other people are.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion then?
All right, I move to authorize John and Ed to work on the job posting and Matt with the PQB on the position description.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second it. Yeah,
Okay.
Martin, aye.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
A question, are we able to get this on the agenda for Thursday, Ed? Do they have a line, other business I can't wait type of?
That I don't know.
Because if we can get it on there and rolling, because I hate to have to wait till another meeting.
Who's they?
PQB.
We're not actually like meeting. We took care of some business that we had to take care of on email, but we're not actually going to be obviously physically meeting or on Zoom either, to my knowledge.
Oh, this Thursday, I thought we just said that Thursday they had a meeting, sorry.
They do. It is scheduled. It was to take care of some business. The agenda was sent to us, and per the information that came out of the governor's office. We had to vote on a couple of things, but we did that over email.
Okay, so what do you think about getting this before them? I mean, if the meeting's posted, could you still hold it just for this? Would you think people would be willing?
You'd have to talk to Art. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I'm just articulating that we were not physically going to be, or even physically being like through Zoom or any other modality. Like that meeting was posted, the agenda was posted. Art clearly wrote like what we were trying to accomplish in that meeting, and it was and he articulated that we were trying to accomplish it over email, and that's what we did.
Matt, would you be willing to reach out to Art and see if he's willing to have a meeting on Thursday? He'd be a perfect person, obviously, to review the building and commissioner job description. If it's posted to, if he's adds it to the agenda for tomorrow morning, that should be free and clear of Thursday night. Are you available to do that, or is that rushing?
No, I am available to do that, but what do we have to do? We'd have to post it under open time for the public. I mean, we wouldn't be within the timeline of the meeting post.
Well,
Right.
Do you have a
48 hours.
line item? Sorry,
No,
do you have a line item there?
I'm looking
the
at the
agenda?
agenda. I'm looking at the agenda online, and there is no line item for other business.
Yeah, like
Okay.
we have one, Matt, that says other business that can't wait. But
Okay,
doesn't
well,
look it.
even next week, if it's possible, if you could just maybe talk to Ed and see what's doable as far as PQB meeting. That's a little quick turnaround for Ed and John anyway, but even if it was sometime next week, that'd be great.
So are we asking PQB to reclassify the position? Is that what I'm understanding?
My understanding is it's got to go through them to be reviewed, and then are they going to put a salary on it, Ed, or is that something we can recommend to them arrange?
Well, it depends. If we don't make many changes to it, it might not change the classification, which it would should already have a range to it.
Okay. Yeah, I can't think of any big changes I'd want to make. Just want to do a quick review.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great for get Art's input too.
Okay.
So even though if it doesn't change, I think the input into the actual job description would be helpful, I think.
Yeah.
So I guess we have a.
And in the
first of all,
meeting that I have posted from an email, it says open time for the public if needed.
Okay, that's not exact other business, but at any rate, we have a motion and we have a second. I don't think we voted on authorizing John and Ed to.
I just
we?
want to throw something out there since we're just discussing this at this. I mean, I probably should have said it before, but it's where sometimes we can get caught. And I'm not saying this is my opinion or not, but sometimes we can get caught in the forest here. This isn't something that we would want to go bigger with in terms of aligning with, say, another town, meaning that I get that Westhampton wants to align to us, but would we want to align to either Westfield or to Easthampton?
You mean have them cover us in Westhampton?
Yep.
Interesting. Before you got here, Matt, we tried to do that with Holyoke. Ed, were you here then?
No.
Okay, we tried to do that with Holyoke. And what we got to the point where we invited the Holyoke building commissioner and building inspector. We had a couple of meetings on the select board. They were willing to take a building inspector and put him, it happened to be him at the time, put him in Southampton working for the city of Holyoke, and they would use their building commissioner because building inspector versus building commissioner, they can do different things. I think the commissioner has a compliance addition to the job, but they're willing to do that. Every builder in town, as well as the people who were vocal about losing control, came out to these meetings, and the select board just said, we can't do it. We don't have any support for it. I mean, I, for one, am supportive of looking, and it's a great opportunity. So I'm okay with that, but I just want to give you that little bit of background. We'll get a lot of pushback from the builders because what they said is that we're not going to get the service. The person's not going to be here all the time. The Holyoke building commissioner, said, well, that's not going to be accurate because the additional benefit at the time was if, I don't remember the gentleman's name, say Mr. Smith was going to be the building commission or building inspector assigned, when he was on vacation, the building commissioner for Hoyoke would assign Mr. Jones, so we'd have somebody here at all times. So actually, there's more coverage if you're aligned with a bigger town or city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes sense to me. I mean, I think I mean, that's all hearsay. I mean, I don't know, that you can't base those thoughts in fact. You know, you don't know.
No, you know,
what the
yeah.
services.
I just remember all the builders coming out, and you know, it was quite the interesting time, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't try it again. So let me ask you a question. Do you want Ed or me or both or whatever to see if we can come up with a conversation with Easthampton or Westfield on this, why we're going through this process? Because even though we post and we put job descriptions and we take applications, it doesn't mean we have to hire somebody. You know, if we decide to go with a different community prior to them, that's our option.
I think it should be part of the formula that we use to try to source this position.
What do the rest of you think?
Oh, I definitely think it's a good idea to look into it. I know that on occasion in the past, when I've been involved with attempts to regionalize, I think there is some appeal to regionalize with towns that are part of our school district. And I think that in the past, when I looked at like the shared conservation agent, and I just think that there have been problems. There is some value in having, you know, the control over the position, but that's not to say that I think it's worth as an opportunity to explore again.
Well, you know, if you don't mind, I'll be glad to make a couple of calls. And I think if nothing else, it will show the folks that we're looking at options and trying to be flexible and hopefully save some money for the town. Because if we're going to be able to share services, this should be an easy one to do.
Yep. That's what I was that's all I was thinking about it. It's one, you know, it's a one person job at this point.
Yeah, I'll be glad to make some calls if you folks want to authorize me to do that and come up with some information and share it. And there may be an interest, there may not be an interest, but if the other towns are looking at ways to flatten their budget a little bit, this may be a way of doing that to help them and us. But if nothing else, at the end of the process, we can say we looked at it, we tried, here's the results, we compared both ways, here's where we went.
And the other thing, if we look at it, it might, if recruiting is a longer process than we expect, perhaps there could be some interim where we would gain some experience and then see if we would want to go forward with something, you know, longer term.
Yeah, I just, you know, when people get up at a town meeting or at a select board meeting and say, you know, the town needs more money, we need to have find better ways to get taxes or flatten our budget, and we don't try this, then I think there's something to what they're saying, you know. So it's good that you brought it up, Matt.
Yeah.
So if you,
I think
like I said,
I think it's a good idea. I would not want it to be, you know, I would like the posting to go forward though and not be dependent on this, right? So simultaneously.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea to put feelers out and see if anybody's interested and what the other towns are thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that would be a separate motion if you want me to do that. So maybe Rini, we complete this motion and.
Yeah, so the motion that's on the table is to authorize John and Ed to move forward with approving or revising, if need be, the current job descriptions separate from the contract for the building commissioner position, which currently is a shared position with Westhampton. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any other comment about the actual job description piece?
Is there anything you need me to do with regard to this? Was I included in, do I have to do something with Art?
Well, the idea was that once the job description is finalized by John with Ed's support also, then it would go to PQB.
Yeah.
So I think the request for you was to actually contact Art and see when you can have a Zoom meeting to review the job description.
Okay.
So all those in favor, roll call.
All's aye.
Tishman, I.
Roland, aye.
Art and I.
And Groden, aye. Okay, well, thanks a lot, John, for doing that.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Who?
John.
John.
Francine
Okay.
motion, John, second. Okay.
Right.
So the second motion would be to authorize John to contact some of the neighboring communities and explore the possibility of going under a sort of shared services with another municipality, more under their current building commissioner. Is that about right? Does somebody
Yeah,
want to make?
I don't know if about using the building commissioner. They
Right,
may
okay.
decide, hey, it's better if you help. But yeah, just allowing me to make some inquiries into whether some local, I would say adjacent towns or cities are willing to talk to us on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? Okay, so Chris and then Francine. Any other comments or questions?
Who made the second?
Francine,
I did.
And who made the motion?
Chris.
Chris Fells.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Roland, aye.
Fowles eye.
Fishman, I.
Martin, aye.
Groden, aye. Well, thank you very much, John, for continuing to help out with this.
Yep, you're
And
welcome.
then if you can just let us know, if there's anything that's hold you up or, feel free. I mean, it's not like a lot of us have, a lot of meetings we have to go to. If you need us to have a meeting to, sooner rather than later, you can let us know.
Yeah, I'll keep you apprised with an email. As long as we're not voting, I can send emails out and just let you know where I am.
Okay. Anything else on the shared building commissioner position?
No, I think that's enough.
I think it's enough too. Let's go on to the next agenda item then, which is the East Street Bridge update.
Nothing to update.
So it's currently went to MassDOT and now it's being reviewed by a third party?
Correct.
Okay. And we don't know any kind of turnaround on that, right?
No, we don't.
Okay. So anybody have any questions about it? No? Then we go on to the Easthampton media contract. So this has been back and forth a little bit since November, and we have the most recent copy. Jen Ramsey also sent us some more recent financial reports. And this is for the public access TV,
Correct.
the PEG agreement.
Does anyone have any questions about the reports?
No, I don't.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just did. I was just wondering how you're making up the difference because obviously it's almost $50,000.
Yeah, so those reports are from 2017 and 2018. I'm not sure why things were that way. It was before I was here. The 2019 reports will be after we get our taxes done. So yeah, as you can see, our expenses far exceeded what the income was from Southampton. We hope to remedy that. The past 2 years, I've been very diligent about staying within budget. But I do want to point out that, we are very underfunded from both towns, and we are doing our best to operate with a small staff and still give the amount of services that any public access station would give. So I hope you'll consider the fact that we are underfunded and understaffed, and we are still doing our best to make sure that our services are given to the fullest extent. If you wouldn't mind, I'll share my screen really quick and just give you an update on what we're doing during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Really brief. So let me see if I can make it full screen. How do I present here? My apologies, I'm trying to make it full screen here. Well, so basically during this time, our facility is closed to the public. As you know, all equipment and lending and studio productions are suspended until the state of emergency is lifted. However, we still are working full-time, all 3 staff. We're tackling the new technical challenges to keep our essential media services running. So we are an essential business during this time because we're providing media services. How do I make this present? There we go. And So we've had to purchase some hardware and some software to help us enable these Zoom meetings to go live on TV. We're also broadcasting COVID-19 related announcements from the town, state, CDC, WHO on channel 191, and we check those daily, Monday through Friday, and keep them updated. We have been reaching out to town departments and committees to offer training for these virtual meetings. So if any committee out there wants to host a meeting and needs a training, we're happy to hop on Zoom and do a test training with them. We're planning virtual town hall discussions with leaders in the community. So, you know, if you can think of any good topics or people that we should talk to, we're happy to do that. I'll be reaching out to more committees in the future. We're in touch with the Edwards Library, who's creating great content on Facebook, and we've given them a time slot to broadcast their story hour. I believe it's Monday through Wednesday at 11 a.m. But we can figure that out if you'd like to know the times and days. I think it's Monday through Wednesday, 11. We're reaching out to community members who are sharing their video content on social media and asking if they'd like to show it on our channels. There's a lot of people in the community doing music performances, art demonstrations, things like that. And finally, we're developing virtual workshops to teach members and content creators how to create with technology they have in their hands, like their mobile phone. So we're developing those workshops. We don't have a date set yet. We're still working on the curriculum. And then we're also attending webinars, researching new technologies, and doing the best we can to keep up during this time. We're meeting online regularly with our colleagues around the nation to share information and ideas on how to keep our services running during this time. And we're working to improve our organization, structural items. And finally, our board and executive director are working on contingency, strategic, and financial planning. So we are very busy, even though we're not open to the public, but we are trying to find ways to involve members and the public in what we do, even though we can't provide actual equipment and training in person. So that's our plan for now. Any questions about any of that?
No, that's great. I've seen some of the library things on Facebook. So if you can broadcast some of those, I think it would be very interesting for the town.
Yeah, and anyone else creating, send them our way. We're happy to broadcast anything. This is your channel. This is your outlet, your media outlet. So anything you create, as long as it's non-commercial, we can show. And then as for the contract, I received some updated language from Ed and your town council. And I think that it looks good. It's basically saying Easthampton Media should own equipment and facilities and be in charge of maintenance of it until the agreement is terminated, which I hope it never is, but that builds in a, a factor for you guys to protect the town. If we were to terminate the agreement, the equipment purchased with those funds would go back to the town. I made a few slight edits and I sent them back to Ed today, and I know that's too short notice for tonight, but does anyone have any other questions about the contract in the last form that you have it?
No, I don't.
Okay. The one question I had for you is funding for PEG access facilities and equipment. There's a section where, section 13A, I'm not sure if you have it in front of you, but it basically says appropriation of funds has to go to town meeting. And I was under the impression, we spoke with our lawyer and had them look at it, and they said as long as capital money has been appropriated, then every purchase doesn't need to go to town meeting. And I just wanted to see if that's true or not, because the concern I have is if a piece of equipment breaks and we're not able to broadcast our channel, or we're not able to do a service that we're supposed to be doing, and I have to wait until town meeting to purchase, that's going to cause a lot of problems.
I could see that.
Yeah.
So really, there, we have accountability. We have a board of directors. We have a bookkeeper and an accountant that are not employees of our organization. You know, we have financial oversight, and basically the money comes from charter to the town, and it's specifically earmarked for PEG access equipment and facilities and operations. So as long as we're accountable and we're sending you the annual reports that are in this contract, I don't see a problem with designating us to purchase equipment as needed, as long as it's within budget.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. As long as we have an agreed upon budget, I don't see the need to go down to item by item. And I mean, that's micromanaging to the nth degree. And I think you would run into situations where something, you know, breaks down or you need to repair something that you can't wait months on town meeting to happen.
Yeah, and we have actually, we have purchased equipment with our operating money to make sure that service is not, there's no stagnant you know, we purchased equipment specifically for the town of Southampton with our operating money, which is not really what that money is for. The capital money is for that, but we've done it in good faith to make sure that there's no disruption in service. So moving forward, I'd love for it to work the way it's supposed to, which is we have our operating money, which is the quarterly payments, and then the capital money, as long as it's appropriated, we can tap into it for purchases.
And all of those purchases, big ticket items, are approved by your board, on which we have a couple representatives from Southampton, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll be looking to recruit one more person from Southampton. I think I mentioned last time we have an opening coming up. So if anyone is interested in television, media, get in touch with us. Free speech, that's, you know, the biggest thing about public access is it's a way for the local community to practice their free speech rights and communicate with one another over public airways. That's what we stand for.
Have you publicized this board opening on your own media channels?
Not yet. I'm going to talk with our board about doing that because it absolutely should be publicized. So we'll talk.
And how does a new person, because I know that you recently had an opening and you appointed somebody to the position. How did this person know about the position, and how did the board go about appointing her?
So I think we're talking about Nilda. Nilda Cohen had contacted us. She had worked with us in the past. She had an interest in what we do. And she just contacted us and asked about what does it take to be on the board of directors. And I just gave her the president's contact information, and she gave a letter of interest and attended a trial board meeting, and they voted her in. So I believe anyone who's interested in being a board member can contact us and, you know, give a letter of interest.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be great if you publicized it widely.
Yeah.
Since you have the opportunity in your media, you know, with media, to go ahead and publicize that instead of waiting for someone to contact you.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, we're still restructuring. Our organization went through a lot of trauma and issues. So it's the new era for Easthampton media, and we're hoping to make everything right and, you know, fix all our procedures. So.
Can you repeat something you said earlier? I think one of the things we've been going back and forth on is about purchasing the large amount of equipment that we need to upgrade our microphones and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What was the final decision on how that is going to be purchased, or is that not even relevant to this conversation?
So until we have this contract signed, I have no direction on how to move forward on that, because as of right now, it's just word of mouth. It needs to be, we don't know. I don't know. That's why this contract needs to be signed, so we have a way to do things, so we understand how we operate with the town. It's to protect both the town and Easthampton media, and also set forth policies that we can abide by.
No, but what I was talking about is we had this conversation about whether or not we have to go through we have to, you know, bid on equipment and go through the usual channels as a municipality. And then did we hear back for sure yet whether or not we have to do that, or whether you can purchase it versus we purchase it? Ed, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I have some language that I actually took the language that was in the previous contract and sent it off to town council. And they said if we use that particular language and those conditions, then Easthampton Media could purchase the equipment on our behalf and just bill us for it.
Okay, and then the contract says that you will also maintain the equipment, but then if the contract is terminated, Southampton owns the equipment, right? Is that what you said earlier?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. What other questions do people have about the contract?
No, I just had one quickie on the content Jen mentioned earlier. Did you say that you were taking some of the things from our website, like updates on the COVID situation or whatever, and also broadcasting it?
Absolutely. So we have a community calendar that's on our website. It's text and it runs between programs.
Okay.
So we do daily check the town website and all the other recommended websites for COVID-19 information, and we've been updating regularly. Additionally, departments like the Board of Health, the COA, other departments can send us any information that they want to post, and we can have it on there. The idea during this pandemic is to have Channel 191 as a destination for people to go to get updated information, and we're updating it Monday through Friday.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, a dumb question because I guess I haven't used it all that much, but is there kind of like a daily schedule that you find easily to know what's coming on at what time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the cable companies are unable to put public access on their TV guide.
Right.
So it just says community programming or something like that.
Right.
But to find the actual what we're playing is on our website, easthamptonmedia.org.
Okay.
And at the top right, you'll see TV guide. And if you click on it, you can find the Southampton channel. And it's updated, you know, as we program the broadcast server, which is Tim's job. It's updated as soon as the schedule is scheduled.
Okay. No, that's good. I've tuned into things just by well, not by mistake, but by happenstance.
Yeah, and you know, another thing we're doing during this downtime, or not downtime, but during the time we're at home, is we're really working on helping to promote what's playing on our channels, what we're doing. And so you'll see some of our posts on Facebook and Instagram will be content, like what's playing. For example, at noon, Monday through Friday, we have the Governor Baker updates playing.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah, we're working on publicizing things more and just getting out there.
Good.
I think now more than ever, you have an opportunity to make this a, you know, a valued service to the community because everybody's looking for information. And that's a great way of getting it out because it's very timely.
Mm-hmm. And it's local and it's
Yeah, local.
town,
Well, that's
you know?
looking, yes.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a couple of other questions. I think that the points that we talked about in the past had to do with the 5% for equipment. It also had to do with the strong language, had to do with payments, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
And was there anything else? I think our lawyer already updated the information about indemnity. Is there any other points that we've talked about in the past that that should be clarified?
So the payment penalty language has been taken out, and I sent Ed today the revised version that I'd like you guys to look at. So we removed that late payment penalty. That's no problem. It was put in there by our lawyer. And then the other stuff you mentioned, I mean, the 5%, that's something we need to decide. And I hope that you'll decide that the 5% should be operating money for PEG access as it's laid out in your contract with the license agreement with Charter. And it can't be spent on anything but PEG access facilities, operations, equipment. Like that's what it's there for. That's why Charter gives you these payments. So by holding it back, it only reduces the amount of services we can give.
Right. Were we also supposed to get a report of any charges that Southampton incurred because of the PEG access? Did we ever get that?
Yeah, we discussed that, I believe, last meeting. Ed sent those out to everybody. And really the only expenses incurred with that money are legal expenses when you were signing your agreement back in 2017 with Charter.
Yep.
Yep. So the money is earmarked for PEG access facilities, equipment, services, operations, and cable-related purchases or cable-related things like legal battles.
Okay, and this is a 3-year contract, Jen, and does this coincide with the Easthampton contract dates, or is it different, do you know?
No, so, it's a totally separate contract because we're, Easthampton and Southampton are 2 different towns. So yeah, the times are off, and, the language is very similar in both, and we try to make it that way this time around because in the past, I think your contract was lacking a lot of clarity, and that's what we try to do in this one is make it clear and make it fair.
Mm-hmm.
When does Easthampton's actually expire?
They signed a 5-year agreement with us in 2019, so
2024.
2024.
Anybody have any further questions? So, Jen, could you tell me what other edits were, I mean, I didn't get a chance to see your email from today. What other edits were made other than the payment issue?
Really, really brief edits. And some I didn't even edit, I just asked questions such as the Easthampton Media shall prepare an annual report by January 31st each year with all the financials. That's not possible because we don't have our audit until our taxes are done. So it's just changing that date or just making it, no date on that, just an annual report every year. Another one is Easthampton Media shall provide the town with certified audit financial statements. We already do have, like I said, a bookkeeper, and then we have an accountant that holds the bookkeeper accountable. The accountant goes through all the financials and makes sure they're legit and gives us financial statements. If we had to do a certified audit, it's going to add another $4,000 to our costs every year. So I was hoping that you wouldn't mind taking that out. Also, Attorney General's office in Massachusetts only requires an audit if nonprofits' income is over $500,000, and ours is not.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm confident that our financials have multiple levels of accountability, and I don't think we need to do a certified financial statement when we already do have an accountant that does financial statements that are maybe not as in-depth, but we have myself, then the board of directors, then the bookkeeper, then the accountant. There's 4 levels of accountability.
Okay. So this contract technically expired in December, right?
I don't have the date that it expired. The last one I think was before I was hired, so that had to be 2017,
Yeah,
2018.
I'm just looking at the beginning of it, says the agreement is
2018,
made.
I think.
Pardon?
I think it was 2018,
It's expired in 2018?
correct.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Was that one?
So,
So I'm confident that the contract in the form that I sent back to Ed should be very close to the final contract that we should sign. We've been working on this for a long time, as you know, and it would be really nice to get it signed so that we have some form of formal relationship, and so that both parties are protected.
yeah, I agree. I'd
Yeah,
like to move. I'd like to move this along.
We need to be done with this. We've been carrying this for quite a while now.
So Ed, you got a copy of that today, but I don't believe you. I got a copy. Did you send it out yet?
No, I have not sent it out. I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet.
Okay. So, does anybody have any other questions? Can we get a copy of it and then put it on the agenda for the next select board meeting and hopefully vote on it?
Yeah, that was our intention.
That was it.
I assume we'd have to make it,
After the 28th.
would we make it retroactive then? Because what it says in this one is that it takes effect December 19.
Right.
So
right.
if it really expired way back in 18?
Well, we would just move the dates to whenever we actually sign it and approve it.
Okay, so that's the date that we'd actually approve it, but then where on this contract does it
But no.
say the effective dates of the contract?
So in the very beginning, the first sentence, I believe, and then at the very end.
I mean, the first sentence says takes effect December 2019, but my point is, you know, we'd be signing it in April, fine, but it should be taking effect from whenever the last one expired. Otherwise,
No.
there's been no
No.
coverage. Why? They're operating with no coverage then.
They already have it.
Well, that's
but I
not a
think
great
that-
practice.
Well, I think, you know, in a perfect world, we would have approved continuation of the previous contract until this one was signed.
Right.
Correct.
But we were without an executive director at that time. We, you know, as you know, we went through some turnover, and it's, you know, in the past. So all we can do is move forward from here.
Yep. Okay, but I want the language, you know, so whenever we sign this, if we sign it in a couple of weeks, it would be from April 2020 for 3 years.
Correct.
And so we technically didn't have a contract for over a year, and there's nothing we can do about it now, but in a perfect world, we would have continued the previous contract.
Yes.
Francine, or go ahead, is that you,
Yeah,
Chris?
I mean, I'd like to propose something. If the edits that she sent to Ed are minor, if they're consistent with the conversation we just had tonight, can we just vote tonight to authorize Ed to sign the agreement, or we have to go through this again?
I'd rather read it, frankly.
Yeah, and you still got some open-ended items, is if you are going to require the 5% holdback or not require it. So there's still some things to be decided.
Let's decide on the 5%.
Well, why don't we decide those things tonight so that we can move on the it can be put into the contract and we can get it done so that whatever we see the next time is what we want, and we'll just vote on it. Because if we wait to see it and talk about it the next time, then it's gonna, and if we have other issues, then we're gonna push it off, and that's how we got to where we are now. I'm just looking to.
But we also haven't looked at what Jen has asked for edits also, so.
But you just mentioned a few of them. They don't sound like they're very major.
But if Ed hasn't had a chance to read it, then we don't know
Okay. All right.
from his side.
Got it. Okay.
I wish. All right.
Matt, do you have any comments?
No, I don't have anything additional. I am in favor of trying to wrap this up, though.
Yeah.
Making
How about you,
the
Con?
decisions on the items that we need to make our decisions on, and if there's still some outstanding stuff, then we'll button that up at the next meeting. But I do think we should, at a minimum, just vote on the 5% and button that up now. I mean, there's no sense in continuing to increase a list of items that we need to check off. We can check off the ones we can check off now, and if we can't check everything off, then it'll go to the next meeting. But we shouldn't be just putting everything off to the last meeting, because we'll never get it. We'll never get this done.
How about you, John?
No, I agree. It's just, this is one of those items that, like the dog complaint in my mind, that just sits here and sits here. Even if we have to have a special meeting before our next one, a Zoom meeting to get it done with, I'm fine with that. But let's get it done and go on.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I'd just like to, if I could just interject a moment, Erica Flood, I'm a new member of the board at Easthampton Media. And I just wanted to stand in and give Jen and her staff just some recognition. And I could see it in Chris's face and in Francine's face when you realize they've been operating for a really long time without a contract. And in the recent weeks, I think the level of service that they've provided to the communities of Easthampton and Southampton are phenomenal. The fact that they are checking these websites for all of us every day without being asked, and making sure we all have access to pertinent information. It's not covered in the contract, and they've gone above and beyond for all of the communities they serve. And I just want to thank you for recognizing, you know, in that moment, they've been doing this without a contract, and to be able to sign this and move forward, they can only get better from here, because they will have the directives they need to continue to expand and improve on the services they provide to all of us.
Okay, thanks a lot, Erica, for comments. And just wondering if Robert Floyd is still on the call. Do you have anything to add, Robert?
The Easthampton Media Board of Directors has really done due diligence with hiring Jen and working with her, and it's been an exponential growth and success. They do need the funds to continue to buy the equipment, and with the burden of what's the pandemic, never need to cover what's happening in our community. So everything that's been presented tonight, I approve of.
Okay, that sounds good. So Ed, you're gonna send the contract back to us. I don't think we need to have KP chime in again, do we?
The only thing I might have them chime in on is whether we can do those, the equipment without a town meeting vote as an appropriation. Other than that, I think we're okay.
Okay, so we'll find that out. And the other issues, like she said, it has to do with whether we have to have a certified audit. And also she removed the strong language around any late payment and then the 5%. So is people comfortable with either having an extra meeting to move this or bringing it up with the intention of hopefully signing at the next meeting? Does anybody want to discuss it any further?
No.
I'm fine if a meeting, an interim meeting is needed just to get this done.
Yeah.
Me
Can we
too.
vote on the 5% now, though?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's probably the biggest item that's left, so take it off the table.
I mean, I totally, you know, in terms of the certified audit, I'm in total agreement. Having worked with various NGOs in my life and nonprofits, there's no need for an organization like this to have a certified audit as long as they've got enough controls internally to manage this. It's going to be an extra cost to us if they do, so.
I'm fine with it the way it is. Also.
So do you need a motion, Rini, that we accept it with the 5%?
I think it's part of the contract that we're going to be looking at. I just wanted to make sure that if that's a big stumbling block, let's talk about it this week. But if people are in a general agreement that we will keep the contract as it is, that it's 100% going right over to Easthampton Media. If people are okay with that and don't want to further talk about changing it, then we can just approve the contract hopefully next time.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Is everybody else okay with it, or do you want to, Matt or Francine, are you comfortable with it staying at the 100% transfer?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll just hopefully look at it one more time and have it done. Thank you very much, Robert, Erica, and Jen.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. And we'll continue to reach out to committees and, you know, different departments and see how we can support during this time.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
catch some things that you had posted, and I was happy to see them about Southampton. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, so the next agenda item under old business is the next step in disposal of surplus real property at 93 College Highway. So this was approved by the town, and I know that we want to continue to move this forward. It was already been approved, and it's been a kind of a long time coming. I re-looked at the document that talked about, you know, disposal of real property, and basically said the next step is to declare it as surplus property and also establish use. So Ed, can you speak to where that's at, if anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, declaring it as surplus property is simply a vote of the select board.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's just a matter of deciding how the select board wants to dispose of it. Whether, and because of the value, it does not have to be sealed bids or at auction. It can be, you know, done via letter and quotes. The select board can establish if they want a minimum bid amount on it, or if they just want to leave it open-ended. And then as far as the requirements of anybody that, quotes or bids on it, if you want to, the property already has certain restrictions on the deed itself, as far as agricultural property, if you wanted to put, at least on the procurement process, not on the deed side, any further requirements or purposes in there, the select board could do that.
What does the select board want to do?
Well, I mean, first of all, the first thing we need to do is declare it surplus property. So I'd like to make a motion that we declare this piece of property surplus officially and get this going.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? So we're declaring it surplus, but we're not at this particular motion going into the details about the fact that it's APR, that there's an easement on the property. So right now, it's just simply a declaring of surplus.
Correct. What can be disposed of.
Okay, so is there any further discussion about this motion? All right, then all those in favor?
Tishman, I.
Martin, aye.
Fowles abstain.
Roden, aye. Matt, you still there?
Roland, aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous with one abstention, and so the property is declared surplus. And like I said, there is APR. There's also an easement on the property. So, what further discussion or votes do you want to do as far as moving this forward?
Just a quick question. The APR and the right-of-way will go with the deed, correct, Ed? That's already in there?
That's correct. I mean, we can remind any potential bidder or quoter that they are there, but you're not putting additional pieces on the deed. They are already on the deed.
Now, planning recommended if there was any issues with water erosion and all that, just to make sure we got that covered. Is that something we need to discuss, or will the APR and the APR won't take care of that, but.
No, I think the only thing.
Go ahead, Rainey.
Planning, the only thing they said is that it just has to be known or made public that there is, serious water problem, and that the easement, goes with the property. I can't remember whether that was a Conservation Commission comment or planning, but I don't think there was a directive to us so much as making sure that it's well known.
Yeah, they just had a concern. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. We just want to make sure whoever buys it knows what goes with it and doesn't come back to the town after.
Correct.
Right.
What, do we remember what it's assessed at? I mean, to me, I would just put it out there for the best bid or quote, or however you want to do it, and with a minimum of the assessed value if it's not going to restrict people buying it.
Well, don't forget that the MDR had said that our assessed value was high in comparison to what similar farmland properties would or should be assessed at.
So let me.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If I recall, Ed, they did have a figure. It was substantially lower than the appraisal that we had.
Okay.
There's appraisal and then there's assessed. Which one are we talking about?
Assessed.
Assess, I'm sorry, yeah. So let me ask you a question. MDR, if they come in and say this particular property is valued at much less than what it's assessed at now, does that open up the town for other landowners who say, well, I'm assessed at this, MDR, I want to get MDR's opinion on this, and all of a sudden our assessed values go down? I want to be careful. I don't know that could happen, but it just hit me when you said MDR thinks it's worth a lot less than what we assessed it at. Well, I don't want to create a domino here.
Well, don't forget this property is somewhat under, or was under MDR's control because of the APRs and whatever on it, so.
Yeah, I'm just worried about a precedent in any manner that could come back, that's all.
I personally think that it's a gully and there's a tremendous amount of water there and it's very difficult for anybody to do anything and it's more of a liability than an asset. And my vote would be to actually not even have a minimum bid, is to just, see what comes in.
No, it was part of the original farm property and just return it to the original property.
Yeah, well, we can't do that, but I'm with you, Rainey. Put it out for $1. We took it for $1 minimum bid and take the highest bid.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me ask you a question, and I'll go along with whatever. What happens if we do that and somebody from somewhere out says, I'm going to bid $200 and they're the highest bid? Do we have to give it to that person out of town who we don't know what's going to do with it? Again, I just want to make sure it goes to the right use, you know?
I don't think we can control that, John. I mean, I'd love to. I'm with you, but I don't think we can. I mean, these
Yeah.
it's not like this is an open bidding process.
Yeah, if you do that with no minimum, if you put a reasonable minimum, that will let people who are only serious about it put in a bid on it. You know, and the reason I say this, back when I was at
That's true. That is true.
working for the state, I set up a surplus bid program. And at first we put no minimum bids, and people were coming from out of the woodwork buying stuff, you know, that were saying, you know, who from California is going to want this little whatever we had, but yet they come in at the $3 and they bought it. So created all sorts of problems. So then we put a reasonable minimum on, and then it only brought the bidders who were really wanted the property to do something with it properly, not just, well, I'm going to buy it because it's $3. So so I'm always very cautious with this stuff, as you probably know by these discussions. So we don't want to price it so high that people can't buy it, but you want to price it high enough so you get the non-serious people out of the picture.
You would
that-
know the most. John would know the most about this, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what did MDR say it was worth, Ed?
I don't remember, John. I didn't even actually remember them putting an actual dollar value on it. I do remember them saying that they thought it was substantially less than what we had for an assessed value. I'd have to go back and look.
Do we know what the assessed value is?
I'd have to go back and look at that too.
I think that those are the stuff we need to discuss this. I mean, I'm not sure why we don't have that, but.
Yeah, I was at that meeting. I know what I think they said on both instances, but I don't want to be quoted in case I don't have it right. But I think what we had as a price was 3 times what MDR came in and said it was valued.
Okay. So we need to put a number on it, whatever number that is. And again,
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to what I said before, which is it's more of a liability than an asset. There's a tremendous
Yeah.
amount of tires and water on this property, and it's landlocked. So there's only 2 people that are abutting the property. It's APR. There's an easement. I mean, I just feel like we bought the land for $1. I just don't think that there's a lot of reason to see this as anything other than a liability for the town. Where we want this, we want to support farming in this town. We want to be able to move this as fast as possible, so they've already, if it goes back to the farm where it came from, they've already missed this year to be able to apply for grants to handle this drainage. We have a landowner on top of the farm where there's a big question as what's going to happen to that land, which is going to potentially add to even more erosion. So I just don't see the point in looking at assessed value and, I just feel like it's just going to be, we didn't have to do this when we bought the land for $1. I just feel like, whatever we can do cautiously, but I'm not here trying to make, $4, $16, $30,000 on this piece of property.
Yeah. So Rainey, it's worth just asking. Does anybody know what the Fletchers want in this?
I have no idea.
I mean, because at the end of the day, isn't that? That's kind of who we're hoping ultimately acquires this land. And you know, and I think, you know, it really just depends on the strategy, right? I mean, if you put it as John has indicated, if you put it at $0 and you get some guy in California that just flagrantly bids for it and bids $5 more than the Fletchers, well, that's really disappointing. You know, so there's part of me that, should we ask the Fletchers like how they want to play this?
Well, Matt, here's where I have an issue here. Having done 20 years of contracting for the state, we're elected officials and we have a legal fiduciary responsibility to the town.
I get that, John, and I understand that, but I'm not trying to cut you off, but we're talking about land that we acquired for $1 to clean up.
But Matt, it doesn't matter from a legal point of view what we acquired it for. We got a grant of 600,000. I mean, who we'd like to see get it personally, I think we're all in agreement, but we've got to make sure that we can't say, like we just said, well, what do they want to do? How do they want to acquire? We can't legally do that without having somebody open us up to a lawsuit.
Mhm.
So what we want versus how we have to get there, I think we need to be real careful.
All right, that's
legally,
fine. Look,
we're bound.
and I appreciate that. I mean, I'm naive to this, but like,
Yeah.
some of this also makes.
So that's why, to me, if we set up a reasonable based on MDR or assessed value, whatever, the only people that are going to want to buy it are the people that are going to use it. And if it's a reasonable number, I think everybody will be happy.
The problem is that the land is useless.
Right. Yeah.
Like
I also
use is
think that the way
defined
we
use. I mean, basically, they're just trying to prevent it from becoming a bigger liability, or to fix the liability that it already is. I'm just the land's valueless as far as.
I don't disagree with that. So I mean, if you want to do it, just put bid, you know, from whatever you want, no minimum bids. We can do that.
The third alternative is, I mean, it looks like we're looking at two: assessed value versus a value that MDR gives. But then, I mean, there's also room for probably the opinion of, which I doubt we want to do, but we might as well just throw it out there, which is the third way, is to get an appraisal and have somebody literally go and stand on that land and figure out that it's worthless.
Yeah,
and come
we
up with an
don't
appraised value. So now you have appraisal, assessed, and MDR. I
You
doubt
don't
we
want
want
us-
to pay money for that.
Yeah,
but when
exactly,
somebody stands
yeah.
on that land, they're going to realize that it's worthless.
Mhm.
I would still support a no minimum bid or a $1 bid, and I would try to construct the land use in such a way that it restricts people buying it for nothing. I mean, meaning buying it for no purpose.
And I thought there was a contingency that there had to be some resolution to the issue, and that was part of this.
Okay, so can I make a recommendation that, Ed, that we check in with our attorney, that, and for an opinion on this, that we would, you know, personally, I would like to, you know, the townspeople voted to offer this land up. And I think that I would like to see what they might recommend. Unless people are still thinking about having a minimum bid that's, you know, an assessed value or an APR value, I would just be very interested to see if they had an opinion on what could be done to limit the purpose of the land so that it then becomes restrictive to anybody other than a farmer.
Well, I mean,
Ed, oops, sorry. Under 40B or any other law, is there a way that we could say we're going to take the best offers, but we reserve the option to negotiate or or reject bids that don't meet what we feel the needs of the property should be? If we could do something like that legitimately, I think that would solve all the problems.
well,
Yeah.
we can add the clause that the town reserves the right to reject any and all bids.
But do we have to put a reason? I mean, again, if somebody bids higher and they say you rejected me because I live in New York, is that valid under the law? Or if somebody up in another part of Southampton bids $500 because they just want to be, you know, that person, can we reject it because we know they're not going to be able to use it?
Well, Here's a couple of ideas. I mean, we know because of the APR that it's got to have a farming requirement to it, but what if we also put in there that the successful bidder must prove that they have legal access to access the land?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
If that's a valid clause, I like it.
That limits
Or
it.
put something in there, only people that could show proof that they have legal access to the land will be able to submit a bid. I mean, if that's legit, that helps us out.
Why don't we do that then? Why don't we just double check with the attorney, just see, can we offer, forget about paying money to have it assessed or anything else, and just say, can we go ahead and offer this land for bid and restrict the access to, well, APR and the easement, and also that they have to have legal access to the land, and that the town reserves the right to reject all bids. And that will cover all ground, and we'll see what comes in.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it
I'm
does.
okay with that.
Sounds good to me.
I'm good.
Okay. Can we go ahead then and put that on the agenda for the next select board meeting, and then you can let us know what the attorney says, and then from there, we'll, take it from there. We just
Sure.
we voted to declare it as surplus, and then hopefully soon we'll be able to have a direction on the offering it up.
Right.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything they want to talk about relating that?
No.
Okay. That takes care of old business. Then new business is COVID-19 update.
All right. And just like to, start off by saying that the most important thing that anybody that's a town resident, business person, what have you, can do right now is stay at home if at all possible. Only go out to do essential business. If you're out in the public, I would recommend that they do wear masks while in public. Although we did have our first death, hopefully it's our also last death, but our numbers had climbed a little bit, but now we're at a point that we're actually seeing individuals that had tested positive go through their period and now test negative. So we've got people that had tested positive coming off those rolls, while maybe some new people do test positive. So right now, even though we're in the middle of, right smack dab in the middle of Governor Baker's period that he forecasted that would probably be the biggest uptake in Massachusetts as far as positive COVID-19s, that our numbers right now are staying stable and pretty much stagnant. And, hopefully we will see that continue over the next few weeks. I will say that our police, our fire, our EMS are all stable as far as the employees go. They continue to operate and to go out when they're needed. Between the police and the fire and our emergency management director getting supplies from MEMA, some from our regular vendors. Our fire chief was able to get some PPE through one of the fire consortiums. We are in pretty good shape right now as far as the personal protective equipment goes. We do have the fire chief does have another order through the consortium out there for PPE. And if that does come in, we will be in excellent shape going forward for the next couple of months as far as those supplies go. The fire chief was able to obtain a small fogging disinfecting machine, which he was putting together some protocols to use in the ambulance. He has offered to share that with the police department for their cruisers. The the police department would have to find a source for the disinfectant chemical that goes in it for their use, but they are sharing those resources. Let's say the health department is keeping busy as far as tracking through Maven as far as the COVID-19 positive reports for the town of Southampton. They have been busy as far as also looking at some enforcement issues. The police department did report that one business, which was not an essential business, did have some people in it. So the health department went out and did give a letter of enforcement, letting them know that there should be the only one really allowed in that business is the owner and no one else. And then only if they were there for essential duties, and no one else should be in there. So that keeps going on. We have had, the health department has received their first requests to put RV trailers into the driveways of Southampton residents who are doctors, nurses, healthcare providers, which is so that those healthcare providers do not have to either stay at the hospital 24/7, that they don't have to worry about coming home and infecting the rest of their families. So we have gotten a couple of, they did receive a couple of those. There are some groups out there that are doing very good jobs. One in particular that just received the approval to do the trailer is partnered with Bay State Health. But we do have residents here in Southampton who are doctors, who are nurses and healthcare providers. So if you do see those out there, they are permitted through the Board of Health, and they're there for good reason. Let's say, talked about the fogger.
So Ed, the Board of Health is responsible for bringing those into town for those that need them? Is that the idea?
They're responsible for actually doing the forms to permit them to come into town and go there, because actually, if you look at our bylaws, they're not allowed. But in the cases, you'll also see them in the instances of where fires have occurred or whatever. But in this particular case, it's the Board of Health that will be approving these for the COVID-19. Let's see. At our weekly meeting, Jerry Swanson had talked about the new guidelines for grocery stores for 40% occupancy, both for employees and for customers going into like the Big Y and other large grocery stores. Let's see, the Long Hill Apartments have put up signage inside the buildings and outside and in their laundry areas, talking about social distancing requirements, wearing masks in public places. The rapid testing is now available for first responders at the Big E in West Springfield. That started an operation this week, and I saw that they have expanded that from not only first responders, but to also tow truck drivers through the governor's office. Let's see. And That's about it for now. We are doing pretty well. Like I say, it seems that the residents of Southampton are listening, staying at home as much as possible. Our numbers are not climbing geometrically as far as that goes, which is a good thing. So hopefully that the governor's right, and April 20th will be the peak of this, and it'll be a downhill climb for then. The governor's orders as far as the stay-at-home advisory, the closing of non-essential businesses, and the closing of schools is still in effect through May 4th. You know, if that will stay and come off on May 4th or be expanded upon and, you know, postponed to go out further, I don't know at this particular point. And, you know, my best guess is it looks to me like hopefully mid-May, we may start to see those numbers start to be on a decline here in Western Mass. So that's where we currently are.
The other thing I remembered from the call is that there is a stable workforce right now in the EMT, fire, and police, and that the governor waived the training for dispatchers so that the police chief is setting up some police officers to be trained as dispatchers if needed.
Yes, they're allowing the relaxed requirement is that for someone to fill a dispatcher's position, they would need 16 hours of training. So the Chief Illingsworth is having 4 police officers go through that 16 hours of training in case they are needed to go in and operate our dispatch facility rather than rely on a backup facility. And then one other thing that I just remembered through the governor's briefing today, that he did announce that, you know, statewide, as far as the number of hospital beds that are available for COVID-19 patients, there are still 50% of the beds that the hospitals have that are available at this point in time. So that's also a good thing, that they're not seeing the hospitals overloaded or overcrowded at this point.
Well, the message is, I think what you had said in the beginning, Ed, is that it's not over yet, and Massachusetts is ranked way up there in the number of cases. So I would just encourage people to follow the advice given: wear a mask if you have to go out, wash your hands often, and stay at home as much as you can.
Absolutely.
Quick question, Ed. You mentioned the some of the new policies around the Big Y and access to the store with, you know, numbers of people and so forth. Does that apply to some of our smaller establishments as well? You know, Pure Food and our little gas station grab and go folks as well?
No, because of their size, those restrictions do not apply to those smaller places.
What's hard though is that those are the places where it's very hard to be 6 feet apart because they are so small. The aisles are very small. So people just need to be extra careful, I guess, if they're going into those establishments, would be my thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think people need to be made aware of that because they may go thinking that those requirements apply and then get there and find out that they don't. I just wanted to ask the question, did all of our first responders, were they all tested or just some of them so far? I know it's by appointment only.
Yeah, just the ones that were showing symptoms.
Okay.
Or I should say possible symptoms.
Okay. And is there a plan that the rest of them will just be tested anyway, just for clearance at some point?
Right now, I don't know of, I believe this requirement is still on to be tested, that even though the chief or whoever's in charge would call and make that appointment, that the individual does have to show at least one symptom.
Okay. And then just following up on Chris's question, are the stores that have to follow these regulations in terms of distancing and number of occupants and so forth, is that being monitored for compliance, or
Yes, the Board of
aware
Health
of it, and we're leaving it to the,
would be monitoring those.
okay, okay.
Any other questions about the COVID update and what's happening? We're scheduling a weekly meeting on Monday with the first, the department heads that are involved in the emergency management until further notice, and we'll pass that information along to you. So the next has to do with municipal relief, COVID-19. These are just directives from the state, right, Ed?
Yes, these are some of the municipal relief items that have come out in the past week from the legislature and the governor's office.
Okay, so
and-
well, I know we have to vote on the extension for the real estate property tax. Do you want to read through these, or does somebody want to read through these municipal relief items?
I'll be happy to read through them.
Okay,
Town meetings may be conducted after June 30th, 2020 if there is an immediate threat to the health or safety of persons or property. The Select Board has already voted to postpone our town meeting into later into June. So if for any reason that were not to be able to take place, then this could come into play. Hopefully it's not necessary. If a town, and this one's the same, if a town is unable to approve a budget for the upcoming fiscal year by June 30th due to a public health or a safety emergency that delays holding the town meeting, the Department of Revenue may allocate a 1/12 budget for July based on the total budget approved for the most recent fiscal year.
Can I just ask
Again,
a question about that? Right now, is there any movement on departments? You would ask them to submit budgets. I know that obviously the Board of Health and other department heads are being asked to keep very good log of the COVID-related expenses for possible and hopeful reimbursement from MEMA. Is there movement on the operating budget right now?
I'm going to start that up again. I was hoping to get a little direction from the state on what this current situation may mean to as far as state aid goes for fiscal year 2021, because I have an idea that what probably was originally announced by the governor's office and through consensus as far as revenues go is going to change. So I think we're going to be in a somewhat of a changing budgetary picture for fiscal year 21. So we'll take that into effect also with this going forward.
Can I ask the other board members what they think about the budget process?
As far as, I mean,
I don't see the need to, like if we end up having town meeting in June, we'd be approving a budget for the operating year. I don't know, it seems like we're behind in terms of reviewing department head requests and that sort of thing. So, I mean, ordinarily, if we don't have a budget approved at town meeting, then we're allowed to do a 1/12 budget until a town meeting approves the budget. I don't see a need to delay it. And until we have to. So I'd like the process to keep moving.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to start taking that up either via Zoom or teleconference.
No,
Now,
I
if we-
agree with you there, Rini.
I do
If
too.
we were forced into a 1/12, would it be based on fiscal 20 or?
Yeah.
Because it,
Yes.
so that may or may not hurt some departments, but you're right. We've got to keep it going until we get to that point.
Right. And the other thing that they've come out with these and in general, and some of the other things it doesn't take into effect is there are some expenditures which actually in the month of July, you actually expend 100% of the funds rather than 1/12 of the funds. And there's been really no clarification on how that impacts those types of items, whether it's for retirement payments or items like that. So I think we're still better off moving forward, and hopefully we don't need that.
Would there be any possibility that the legislature would consider, I mean, for big ticket items like retirement and so forth, and an extension? Just to coincide with this 1/12, get us at least to July?
I wouldn't even tend to guess as far as that goes. In some cases, they've actually kind of left it open-ended and up to the Department of Revenue and DLS.
Mm-hmm. Are any of these decisions, any of them be made locally?
As far as what?
Making, extending, giving extensions and so on and so forth?
Well, it gave us the ability to extend or delay the town meetings and the town elections.
Right.
Right.
But I mean, other things. Any of these within local jurisdiction, or it all has to start with the state, and then we may or may not take advantage of it?
Well, for these, this is the guidance that we received from the state.
All
Well,
right.
would have to take advantage of it. We wouldn't have a budget.
Right.
Right.
So we'd basically be doing the 1/12. So I have a question. So what about like busing? Busing is that we have a huge contract on busing. So I'm assuming right now we're paying them regardless of whether or not they're actually busing anybody?
Yeah, I can't say for sure.
Yes, I think the void when it comes to the schools. I mean, they're the biggest part of the budget, but the numbers have already come in from the state. I'm assuming their expenses are less than more right now. So, copying and all that sort of thing. So anyway, I just want to just keep moving with it. I don't want to just assume that, we're just going to be up against the wire in June just because we're allowed to wait until then. Like, we're not going to be ready if we just wait. So if
No,
we
I
can
agree. I don't
I
see any
agree.
reason why we have to wait either. I mean, we really
Yeah.
should be on top of this and dialed in, and I don't
Can I just ask, if I missed it, tell me if I'm wrong. Have we gotten recent expense and revenue reports?
Yeah,
Yes.
good question.
We have?
Yeah.
Did you get one? I didn't get one.
Well,
No?
let's get one for the next meeting, okay?
Because I mean, this is something we need to look at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will send out what I got. I thought that you would have been on that distribution list.
I'd also like to get some input from the schools. I mean, they're obviously not in the call in terms of, first responders, but I do feel like they are a huge part of the budget, and I would just like to kind of find out what's happening from a, financial standpoint, like what charges are we not incurring, and, what's contractual and we have to pay for it anyway, like the busing thing. I just feel like it'd be helpful to know that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I will
Okay.
reach out.
Quick question, where are we with the finance committee? Are we still lacking members? I lost track of that.
Yes, we are.
So are they functional to be able to help us put the budgets together? Or?
No, we don't have enough for a quorum at this point. So we still need to find some volunteers.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. So we'll get the revenue and expense report, and we'll get a little feedback from the schools in terms of, what's contractual versus what is not having to be covered. Not that it matters so much, and we'll move forward on the actual budget process so that whether it be the existing date in June, we will hopefully still be able to have a budget and not have to rely on the 1/12. We can avoid it.
Correct.
Okay, so the next one, you want to keep going, Ed, on the municipal relief?
Sure. For fiscal year 2021 only, if adoption of an annual budget is delayed due to the governor's state of emergency beyond June 30th, 2020, the DOR Director of Accounts may authorize the town to use free cash and funds in an enterprise or special revenue accounts for fiscal year 2021 expenditures. And then if the current
Without
COVID...
town meeting approval?
What's that?
Without town meeting approval?
Correct.
Okay.
Then if the current COVID-19 state of emergency results in deficient spending in fiscal year 2020, the act permits a town to amortize the deficit over fiscal years 2021 to 2023 inclusive, so over a 3-year fiscal year period. Then take out beer and wine sales for Section 12 licensed restaurants are allowed for off-premise consumption under specific circumstances. The one establishment that we currently have has been notified of that. And then extension of land use permit deadlines for hearings and appeals have been and are out as 45 days after the state of emergency comes off. And I have let both the planning board and the Conservation Commission know of that.
Okay. So we have at least 2 votes that we need to take. I don't know if they can both be the same one. One of them is the extension of the due dates for real property and personal property tax until June 1, 2020. And the other
Correct.
is an extension for the exemptions that the Board of Assessors just approved to allow an extension for the exemptions.
Yes, and you can do them separately, or you can roll them both into the same motion, because they're both recommending that they be extended until June 1st, 2020.
Would someone like to make that
Yeah.
motion then?
I'll move to do both, the extension in the property tax and the
And the
Yeah,
duty for the exemption and deferral applications to June
for
1st.
tax purposes, yes. Thank you, Ed.
Is there
You're
a
welcome.
second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Was
is
that
there
Chris?
Yep.
Is there any questions or comments? Chris, do you want to say anything more about the assessor's vote, or just
No,
all
I think-
exemptions
I
delayed?
think that was it. I think, people would normally be expecting that they'd have to be paying a bill in May, and already they would have had to file for their exemption in April, already by April 1st. So this should be, people have already taken advantage of it by the deadline, but there still are some that have not had a chance to react to that or to apply for their exemption. And so I think the assessor will be reaching out to those people that normally would have received this and
Okay.
remind them that they still need to do this, but they have a little bit more time now.
And there's also a very specific form that the announcement on this has to take. So after this vote, I will edit that appropriately and get it on our website. I'll also do a code red announcement to that effect, and we'll get it out on the social media too.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, then can we vote on it?
Falls eye.
Fishman, aye.
Roland, aye.
Roden, aye. John, you
you're
still
muted.
there?
John's muted.
I'm sorry, I had it on mute. I said Martin, I twice.
Okay.
Count me for 2.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything else relative to COVID? Any questions or anything? Okay. Be safe, everyone. Let's go on to, we had building commissioner job posting. Is there anything, we don't have to say anything more about that, do we?
Well, I put a draft into your packets, so I just didn't know if the group wanted to go through that, give me some ideas as far as that goes.
Okay.
Can I just make one comment on page 4 under knowledge, abilities, and skills? Can we reference it, the handicapped accessibility, can we reference it as ADA compliance?
Where is that?
On page 4, under knowledge, abilities, and skill, under knowledge, the 4th
Yep.
line down, instead of handicapped accessibility, ADA compliance.
Aren't we just looking at the posting for now?
I'm
Supposedly.
looking at the job description.
Well, I think we already authorized John and Ed to look at the job description. I thought we were just looking at the posting.
Okay, well,
Yep.
that too.
Okay.
Um,
No, I mean, if you have comments about the job description too, I mean, it's totally fine to comment on that so they can incorporate anything.
I think it'd be more efficient if John and Ed would work on that together and then come back with any
Yep, that's fine.
comment. It'd take a long time to go through it page by page here.
Well, the posting that we should be talking about is just one page.
Right,
All right, I'm trying to find it, sorry.
and so you guys you'll fill in the blanks in terms of number of hours and salary range and so on in concert with the PPPB.
Right.
And what I was thinking, since we're going to put this out here and we may be able to hire someone before July 1st if we go to a shared building commissioner as of July 1st, that we might open it up and just say, do the beginning of the posting as it was our own building commissioner and say something like 32 hours per week position, blah, blah, blah. And then later on in it said potential to become a shared building commissioner and go to 40 hours per week as of July 1st.
I don't know about potential there, Ed, because if our goal is to do it, I think we should be more specific.
Well, John, don't forget, it also requires a town meeting vote.
Right, that's why the potential, if we hire somebody who's just interested in 32 hours, not interested in 40 hours, and then the town meeting votes on it, we're kind of stuck.
Well, back up a minute. Why does it require a town meeting vote?
It will require, in both cases, approval of the budgets for both communities.
All right, the budget, but our budget hasn't changed. I
Right.
mean, I don't think the position should be held up because of the town meeting vote.
Yeah, they're not going to specifically vote on the position. I mean, if somebody says the budget has increased X amount because we're shared, that would be a valid question, but we can show them that that's not accurate.
Right.
Okay, what if it doesn't pass in Easthampton, John?
Well, it's got to be conditional upon it passing, the budget passing, but not specifically the joint building commissioner, I think is what we're saying. It's a normal budget item rather than a specific shared building services item.
Well, I'm comfortable with John and Ed sort of working this out. However, you're the one that's been talking to the Easthampton Select Board. They're also out a building commissioner as of May, whatever. So they also have to make arrangements. So I'm pretty comfortable with what's written here.
Would you want to add though, John, just your comments there on the first sentence, with the building commissioner, zoning enforcement officer sought, would you want to add something like position shared with neighboring town or something like that? Just so that it's clear?
Looking at it, I think we should make that clear that we're seeking a building commissioner that'll be responsible for the town of Southampton and Easthampton, with maybe put something in Southampton Monday through Thursday and Easthampton Fridays. Just give the person or persons something to go on a little bit,
Yeah.
But we can, Ed and I can work that out.
Yeah, you could just say 4 days a week in Southampton and 1 day a week. And
Yeah, there you
I
go.
mean,
Yeah,
keep
that's
it, you know,
cleaner.
as general as you can without, getting.
Yeah. No, you're right. I like that.
And then one other thing, I've got this set up so that depending on what we get for applicants, this is set up so if someone came along, it wouldn't preclude someone with building inspector certifications to apply for it and be hired, as long as they can pass the rest of their tests to reach the building commissioner certification in 12 months.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That seems
Is
reasonable.
everyone
We did-
comfortable with that?
Yeah.
That was like with Tom too, because he was a building inspector, correct? And
Right.
now what we had to do in that case is that we had to hire Easthampton building commissioner to cover on the items that the building inspector wasn't certified to do. So I would assume the salary would be lower if we get a building inspector versus a building commissioner until the time
Correct.
he or she became certified.
Right.
I see you've got position open until filled. Do you want to put an initial deadline for applications? And then, otherwise we could be waiting for months for people to apply.
So applications will be reviewed, starting to be reviewed as of such a date?
Right, something like that, and during the month of May or something like that, or, I don't know,
Well, or as they are received, maybe.
as they are received, something like that.
Yeah.
Not quite so open-ended, maybe.
Yeah.
That's my only thought.
Yeah, because we find somebody really good, we don't want to have to wait, yeah.
No.
Any other comments about the posting? Is there anything about the job description itself that anybody wants to, besides Francine, to kind of provide to Ed or John? It's the existing one right now, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. We don't need to vote or anything on that, do we?
No.
Okay. So you and John will take a look at that and hopefully get it moving along. At the same time, check in with neighboring towns. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next thing, which is Town Caucus postponement until May 12, 2020.
Yeah, the town clerk has requested that we move the caucus from the 5th to the 12th. The 5th is 1 day after the governor's current order would come off. So she had the question of, whether people would feel safe coming out 1 day after that. We still have the 38-day requirement before the annual election, so the 12th still fits that. And the other item would be if the board does vote to postpone the caucus until May 12th due to COVID-19 concerns, that May 12th was originally a select board meeting evening, so we'd have to pick another evening to do that meeting.
I'm okay with that.
I think you reached out individually and everybody was okay with the 12th.
Mhm.
So would someone like to make a motion to change the caucus date from the 5th to the 12th?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
Is that Francine?
yes.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Fowles eye.
Tishman, I.
Roden, aye. Okay, it's the 12th for the caucus. Do you want to look now at those select board dates or?
Sure.
All right, so right now, the next one would typically be, unless we end up having a separate one, the 28th of April. And then the next one would typically be the 12th. Do we want to have it, the select board meeting a different day that week? Like the 14th or
Might be a good
another
idea.
day?
Yeah,
I can do the 14th if you want.
sure.
That works for me.
How about you, Matt?
That's all fine with me.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and have the select board meeting instead of the 12th, the 14th of May.
Okay.
And then right now, if we stay on track, it would be the 26th after that.
And the town caucus starts at what, 7? Is that right?
I believe it's 7 to 9.
I think so, yeah.
That sound right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And the 14th would be at 6 as usual, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me get back to the agenda then. Zoom meeting for other boards and committees. I know Cindy Palmer was going to reach out to you, Ed, about the open space meeting by Zoom. Does our current Zoom license include any other committee or board that want to use it?
It does. The only thing we're going to have to be very cautious about is that one meeting at a time. So we have to be careful of any conflicts. So you can't have two boards or committees wanting to meet the same day at the same time and using the Zoom.
Is that
I've already reached out to planning and to conservation about it. Cindy did contact me about utilizing it for the open space. And then the only thing, it popped up after the fact with me, and I was glad to some extent to hear Matt said that they had pretty much taken care of the PPPB stuff for Thursday night. But if the PPB was going to meet on Thursday night and wanted to use the Zoom, in my opinion, they'd have the right to bump open space.
Okay. Is that something that Lucy could monitor, or is that something that, how would that best be handled if people wanted to schedule meetings, or do you don't think it's a problem?
They're gonna have to work through me because I'm the one that actually has the sign-in credentials. I can basically set the initial meeting schedule up for them and then send them the link to the sign-in page along with this basically user ID and the password to get in and utilize it.
Okay.
You don't end up having to be the host for it all the time, do you? Or
Oh no, once I send that off to, the chair or whatever, I mean, it would end up populating with my name on it, but no, they would be the host.
I wouldn't want you to have to attend all those meetings.
Well, actually, it would be better than going stir crazy a little bit. But yeah,
Good.
no, yeah.
And will they all be recorded?
It all depends on how they set them up.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can record, there's a button at the bottom here so anybody could record the meeting. And then I believe Jen told us there's a Dropbox or something that we can dump these files into for 191.
Right. Correct.
Okay, anything else on Zoom or remote meetings? Anything else to add on that?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. Ed, how much is the license for the Zoom and how long is it good for?
It's a 1 year. We paid for 1 year and it was $150.
Okay, that's not bad. Okay, anything else on that? The next is the auditing letter that's in the packet. Did everybody get a chance to review that?
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Yep.
Anybody have any comments or questions about it?
Well, I guess in terms of reconciling the balance, that section on the top of page 4 where they found the variance between what the treasurer said and what the general ledger said.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is a function of or not. But
It's a function of the postings and the timing.
is that kind
So-
of like where we are with the delay in posting the revenue?
Well, what it means is that the accountant and the treasurer, at least on a quarterly basis, should get together and double check these and make sure that they're what they have
On the
agrees.
same page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the same thing about, creating the budgeted, the budget accounts, the expenditure accounts for some of these have not been created since they were approved at town meeting, right? So, I mean, there's things that just seems like there's little holes that are, things are dropping through the cracks here that somehow a more regular communication between the two of them sounds like it needs to happen.
Yeah, like I say, we have put together the responses to these, and they have gone off to Melanson and Heath. So we should see the actual final with those responses.
That was going to be my
Probably a
question,
week
because
or
the
two.
responses were not part of what we got. So are we able to see the
The
responses?
responses just went out today.
Oh, okay.
Can we get a copy of those, Ed?
Sure.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what the explanation was. Maybe it's something very reasonable. I don't know.
In the past, the select board was actually given a copy of the town response before that went out. So, yeah, I think that's important to know. Like, this is actually quite a bit more than what's been happening in the past. I mean, unless I'm thinking of the, the response back from the auditors, but if I'm not mistaken, I think we got a draft of the audit, because I remember chiming in on it, not really being very specific enough to, I mean, one of the things that came out of the last one was, I think, your signing of all the
Warrants.
The warrants.
Warrants.
yeah, the warrants. So anyway, I would definitely like to get a copy of the town response.
Sure.
Yeah, there's some of these, I mean, I'm just going back over at the duplicate transfers and all that, there's some big dollars involved with that. So it'd be interesting to see how those happened.
Well, that, and I think not updating the balances of the enterprise fund. I guess I'm
Right.
concerned about that, because we really have no control over the enterprise fund in general, really, right? In terms of it being generated through the landfill and through the water fees. So, keeping track of that, I think, is a really important one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Were any of these risk items or other items, were they a repeat from the previous year that sort of weren't fixed going forward? Because the whole thing with that password thing, that rings a bell to me.
No, they had actually removed that last year. So the only thing from prior years issued would be that number 4, develop a more formal risk assessment process.
Okay. So the town response was provided by you or Vicky, Jen, everybody, primarily you, or?
Vicky and myself.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like Jen needs to kind of be brought into it.
Vicky would have gone over it with Jen for any that went with both of them.
Okay. Anything else on the in response?
No,
I think we can tell better once we see the town response, and we can talk about it maybe next meeting.
yeah.
Okay. Can we add that
Yeah, I
back
think
up to the
I think it's worth talking about it again with the response, so that we understand how it's going to be addressed.
Yeah, I agree. If we can have, so you'll send us what was sent to the auditors, and we'll put it back on for next time. How long do they usually turn around the their letter, would they send a letter saying that they, you know, that they're happy with it, or like,
Yeah, they'll incorporate it in it. They're all working from home also, so in previous years, I might have said it might be as quick as a week. I would say 1 to 2 weeks. I would expect to have that back.
okay. All right. I'd still be interested in having what was sent to them, sent to us, if that's okay.
Sure, I can take care of that.
Okay. Any other necessary business that can't wait until the April 28th regular select board meeting? Okay, so no PCFs, no signatures.
I just have sorry. I was just curious. Remember last year we were behind the ball on the annual report, and Ed and Judy were making great progress this year about getting reports in from the various committees for the April 1st or whatever it was deadline, or March 1st, I forget. So I'm just wondering if that's still ongoing and if we can keep that momentum going so that we can have an annual report on time this year.
Well, it'd be easier to have one this year because we've postponed the town meeting. There's probably about, I think, 4 committees that haven't responded as of yet, but
Okay.
Overall, very good.
Good, great.
Judy's got a good
Go ahead.
pit bull on it.
Okay. Are there any committees that we're liaison to that we can help with that, or no?
I would have to go back and take a look at the ones that have not responded yet, just to refresh my memory.
Okay. Okie doke. Yeah, good point, Chris. So licenses and permits, Tin Can Alley, 74 College Highway, the alcohol license holders, of course, a change of managers to Lisa Yamakowski and Joan Yamakowski.
From Joan, yes. Lisa's taken over for her mom.
Okay, from Joan, yep. So that's paperwork that needs to be signed, and all the paperwork's together, Ed?
Yes. And everything's in order for the approval. So it was a little bit more challenging in this particular case due to the remote meeting, but like I said, Judy went over it and I went over it. So everything is in place, and all we need is vote of the select board for the change in manager.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
So John and then Francine, and then
Yeah.
what question? Any
I have a
questions?
question. Yeah, I have a question. Now, the application for a change of manager, down below where it says manager's signature on 3/3, Lisa signed it, but she's not the manager yet. Should Joan have signed that?
No, it's the person that is intended to be the manager.
Okay.
Any other questions about the transfer of the alcohol license? How long is it like?
It's not a transfer of the alcohol license. It's just change of manager.
Change of manager, that's what I meant, I'm sorry. Any other questions about it? And this is
Nope.
good for just a year?
Yeah, it would come up for renewal in November of 2020.
Yeah, okay. We have a motion and second, all in favor of this transfer?
All's aye.
Tishman, I.
Martin, aye.
Road nine?
Roland, aye.
Okay. So we're up to warrants.
I gotta go find the power cord, so I'll be right back.
You want us to wait?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right, warrant P 20-40 for $279,470.15, payroll warrant. The payroll deduction warrant PD 20-40 for $45,091.55.
Okay, any questions on the warrants? We have, well, there is a document that has to be signed. I'll come down and sign it, but do you want to speak to that, Ed, about the money through PVPC on the COVID? Because we
Oh, yes,
discussed before with the $4,000, but we have additional funds.
Yes, the second phase has come through and we received the contract for that second phase, which is $5,100 and some change. It requires the select board chair's signature on the contract with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to distribute those funds to our health department.
Great.
Okay, so that, I'll sign that, and you, but the signature on the transfer on the alcohol, does that have to be signed by anybody?
I don't see a signature required there, so I think we're okay.
Okay, good. All right, then in that case, we're up to the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. The first is March 25th, then February 4th, and then February 18th. So did everybody get a chance to look at those?
Yeah, it was March 25th of 2019.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for clarifying that.
yeah, that's more than my memory can handle.
I know, I was looking and saying, oh my God.
Yeah, huh.
Okay, I'm gonna move to accept the minutes of March 25, 2019.
Okay, that's Francine. Any second?
I'll second it. John.
Okay. It was a pretty short meeting. All those in favor?
Roland, aye.
Fowles
Road-
abstain. It was before I got on the board.
Okay,
All right, Tishman, I.
Martin, aye.
and Groden, aye. Okay, the next set is February 4th, 2020. It looks like, Chris, you were not at that particular meeting, but that was the presentation by Art Lawrence.
Yeah. I actually,
and
I didn't watch
presentation
it.
by PHB.
Yeah, I tuned in and watched it though, so I can.
Right,
Got
right,
it.
right.
My question is his report attached to the minutes or will it be?
Yeah, all those, they don't get attached to the minutes. They go into a package from that particular date so that all that information is accessible.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Yeah. At some point, that's something else that we'll have to pick back up on too, as a pending issue.
Yes.
Okay, so are we ready to approve these minutes then? And we can do them separately then?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the minutes from February 4th, 2020?
I'll move to approve the minutes of February 4th, 2020.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Roland, aye.
Tishman, I.
Fowles eye.
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye. Okay, so lastly, we have one more set, which is, let's see, February 18th, 2020.
I move to approve. Matt Roland.
Second, John Martin.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Roland, aye.
Fowles eye.
Tishman, I.
Martin, aye.
And Groden, aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, so next, we have 4 pending items: College Highway land donation, dog complaint, open space and recreation plan update, and Dewar Green Community Grant update. Any questions or any updates on any of those things?
Well, can't we take the land donation off?
I think we can, based on our communication last time. We did have some updates on the dog complaint, but I don't think there's anything. I mean, I think our town clerk had provided a little bit of an update, but I don't think it's anything that's a technically agenda item right now. Is it safe? Is there anything happening with the open space plan or the Green Community Grant, Ed?
No, not at this point in time.
Okay.
Can we back up a second?
Yep.
I know we can't do much of a discussion because it came out of executive session, but I think we need to leave that College Highway land donation on there and schedule an executive session because some information was supposed to be coming back to that session from Ed.
Okay.
So maybe we can put it on for next meeting? In executive session?
I can do that.
Okay. Off the top of my head, I'm not remembering what he was supposed to give back, but if that's the case, then sure, we'll put it on for executive session.
Okay.
Anything else on any of those?
No.
Yeah, I know everything's somewhat on hold because of the COVID, but we do have, what was our extension date on the green communities? I know we're supposed to be looking at the energy savings, but we just don't want to lose $130-something thousand there. And we definitely need to have the recreation plan, keep moving along because that's our ticket to get grants.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so then select board meetings, April 28th. May 14th and May 26th. And then open time for the public. I'm not going to read all this, but have we received any emails?
We have not.
We have not. Is there anybody on the call here that has a question?
Yeah, Rini, just a thought. I think we talked about this. We said if we were going to take public comment, they had to have the camera enabled so we could identify them.
Right, very good point. Okay, so I don't think that is the case. We'll just wait, and if anybody wants to email us, again, at the top of the agenda, there's information on how to send an email with any public comments, which will be read at the next select board meeting. So in that case, we will close this agenda and go into executive session. Is there a separate link for that, Ed?
Yes, and would you read the reason for executive session, please?
I will. Okay, it's Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of a public body and the chair so declares. Police officers, New England Benevolent Police Association. So we will not be returning to open session and just need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Matt? And
Roland,
Chris?
aye.
Who seconded?
Chris,
Okay. Okay, so vote, please.
Roland, aye.
Fowles eye.
Tishman, I.
Martin, aye.
Roden, aye.
All right, thank you all.
Okay,
How
and-
long till we go into executive session, Rini?
Do people want to go right in or do you want 5 minutes?
I'd like 5 minutes.
Okay, so
All
it's
right.
just about 5 or 6. We'll just join around 6, okay? I mean, I'm sorry. I'm looking, it's not 6. Hang on a second.
8:45, how's that?
8:45.
Okay. See you there.
8:45, we'll join. Okay, and there's a link on our email for that?
Yes,
Okay,
down
thanks.
below.
Scott. Okay, thank you.